this video is just a quick little tutorial about the different business models for photographers. And this way you can find out which one fits your lifestyle the best. If you're realizing that you're taking on all the jobs just because you really want, to be a photographer, but it's really getting in the way of your life, then I'm going to walk you through a few different business models and you can figure out what's right for you. Okay, so the most profitable and most gross sales inducing model is to be a full service boutique photography studio doing in-person sales. You might see in-person sales online called IPS. That's what it means. In-person sales. That means that I have the client come to my house or studio and I show them wall art and I sell them wall art. And that's how you make a lot of money. So let me talk about the next type of business model. The next one is a hybrid one where you're doing some products and you also offer digitals. I mean, a lot of clients just think they want the digitals, so it's just so much easier to do that. And if you love the shooting and you don't love the selling, then, adding some digitals to the mix makes it so that you are actually shooting more, but you're probably making less per client. So it's sort of a volume-based business. And the next type is just similar to the hybrid. It's like they're kind of the same, is where you do digitals, but you're charging for them. You're being a numbers-based, digital-based business. Okay, so it's not quite a hybrid system because you're not actively pushing products, but you're definitely selling the digitals and making money per job instead of making money off of products. Okay? And then the fourth type is just like shoot and burn. Your session fee includes all the digitals or most of the digitals, and there's little room for upgrading. With that business model, you're like the Walmart of photographers. You're cheap and you're going to take any job. It doesn't really matter who it is. And I'm not saying that to be derogatory. It's just the nature of the beast. Like, you're probably newer and you don't really know where you fit in the industry yet, or you don't have the confidence, whatever. There's a lot of reasons that people are shoot and burn. I do actually know shoot and burn photographers that are profitable. But that being said, it's the least profitable of all of the photography business models because there's no room for any extra profit. If you give them all the files, they walk away, you probably never see them again. You also can't charge as much for your session fee because of that. It's less value actually on the digitals, ironically. So let's run through the difference between each one in a little bit more detail. So the different business models are, there's boutique full service, okay? That's kind of like the upper echelon. That's when maybe you have a photo studio or you're just really dialed in with your sales process. Someone like me, I've been doing this for 15 years, so I know what's appropriate for an engagement session. I know what's appropriate for them to buy from a newborn session. If they're a high school senior, I have a specific set of products for them. I'm all dialed in. Anytime they call me and they tell me a little bit about the gig, I can tell them exactly what they might want to buy. They might come back with a few other things, but generally I'm dictating the sale and I'm coming up with cool ideas they haven't thought of before. So the nice thing about that business model is you can work with less clients and get more money per client. So you have a higher average sale, which that's what I want to do. And if you have a family that you're taking time out of your business for, I highly recommend it because then you can work with less clients and make the same or more money. The hard part for a lot of people with that is knowing your sweet spot with the pricing structure, like knowing how to charge, what's the right price to come up with for a 24 by 36 canvas and offering metal prints and all these other cool things and just figuring that all out. Sometimes that takes time, and that's why you see all of us established photographers, we're there because we've done it all. That being said, you can start out with that. Just keep it really, really simple. And I highly recommend everybody start out that way because then you're going to learn it so much faster. So the peril to that is that it's more expensive to run the studio, especially if you have a regular studio and not in your home. There's more overhead involved in having samples is part of it, and more time with the client, theoretically. I say theoretically because the better you get and the more clear you are in your sales process, actually it's easier. I've booked $5,000 portrait clients over email, and that's all I ever did was email. So it can be done, but my whole point of a boutique full service business is your gross sales is much higher than any of the other business models. You just have to be sure that your profit is also in line with that and that you're saving and doing all the things you want to do. So the part of that is just personality. I'd rather work 15 weddings a year and pay for my life than 40 and give everything away. So that's how I do it. I do low volume but high dollar for both my portraits and my weddings because I want a more flexible lifestyle. I want to be able to travel more and plan my year better. So that's what works for me. Okay, so that's the boutique full service in-person sales business model. The next one, which is also can be very, very profitable if you do it right, but this one's a little harder for people to get right. This one is a hybrid system, and this is where you're mixing some digitals and some products with your clients, okay? So their session fee may come with, let's say, 5 digitals, and then you're trying to upsell them products on top of that. The nice thing about that is then any lead that comes your way, you've got something for them. Whether they think they want just the digitals, you have something to offer them. But if they want products, then you have that for them too, and you're not afraid of it, okay? So that's a good way to do it. Just be sure you're not giving out too many digitals and that you're not focusing too much on, oh, it comes with 10 digitals or 5 digitals or 25 digitals or whatever, because then you're keeping price on each image in their mind, and you're not thinking and translating heirlooms and service and all these other cool things. Like when my clients have a digital file, they're not going to do a really cool metal print. They would never think of that. And they sure as heck would never do a giant print over their couch, and they wouldn't know what size and all that stuff. So this is where you really can help them with that, all of that. And the less digitals you include, the better. The next business model is the profitable digital. With the profitable digitals based model of pricing, the key there is that the digitals are priced accordingly. So what I mean by that is that the digitals garner the same profit as prints. And you can work more, so you'll be shooting more, which most people want to be doing all the time, right? Is shooting more. But the difference is you'll just have a lower average sale than some of these other business models. That being said, you're pricing the digitals accordingly and you're getting profit for them. So I know photographers that are able to support themselves, but their session fees are more like $700 or something like that, and those include the digitals. So they're not doing $100 session fees including everything. They're pricing the digitals accordingly. And another popular way for them to do it is to have a lower session fee, and then each batch of like 5 digitals is a couple $100 or something like that. I've seen digital-based photographers charging over $1,000 for the digitals, and it's still just digitals. For me personally, I think that's a waste of money. I'd rather spend $1,000 and have wall art, but depends on what your client wants. So this is where you think through what works for you. If you don't want to sell wall art, then that's the way to do it and be profitable. The last business model we've talked about, which I kind of threw under the bus earlier, which is just the shoot and burn high volume business model. And that's, again, the reason I say it's more new people, it's because newer photographers haven't done the math, they haven't quit their job yet, they're not actually trying to pay for their 401k and their health insurance out of their photography income. So that's the general I'll be honest that it's a stereotype, but I would say 80% of that demographic that's the case. And then you just move up the ranks into the different business models as you learn. And as you learn that you want a better lifestyle of not shooting all the time and not making any money. So that's the key. So, and again, if you want to shoot and burn, then just charge accordingly. So for example, I know some wedding photographers and they just do not want to sell anything. And they can't find anyone to hire to sell anything, and they just don't care. But what they're doing is pricing themselves accordingly, which again gets back to the more profitable digital based. So they've thought through, if I want $3,000 for a wedding day and $1,000 is digitals, then my packages are just $4,000 and they come with digitals. So again, that's that next rung up of profitable. They know what they're worth and they're including them or charging for them. So this shoot and burn mentality is more like, let me do it for $100 and just give away the files. But there's no meat on the bone there. How many gigs are you going to have to do if you're doing $150, $200 photo shoots and including everything? There's just no room for upgrades in that business model. So it's just something to think through. The general rule of thumb is in this industry, everybody starts there. But I started with film and no one started that way. Like I would have never, just because I was new, there was no way I was giving out the negatives when I started doing weddings and portraits. It just never was a thing until digitals. And it's because we don't value them and we just give them away because it's a transfer of, ones and zeros. And so in that way, that's why I wanted to bring up the other three ideas of different ways that you can do a different business model, because it is just ones and zeros. That digital file is not going to end up as a print, or maybe an 8x10 at the most. And then you don't have quality control, and there's a whole slew of reasons not to. So even if you want to be a very inexpensive beginning photographer, just don't give out the digital files. Let them buy them. So even if you let them buy them for another $200, then now you get $400 for that portrait session. So I'm just throwing out some numbers and some ideas for you. That way you can decide which one of these business models is best for you. So again, most people start with like the lower business model, but again, with me starting with film, I wish I had just started right out of the gate. I knew what I was doing enough. I was going to show up. I was going to put in 110%. I loved all my clients. I got to know all my clients. I did a really good job on my early weddings. So why was I only charging $600 or $900 for those? I'm the same person. I'm a better photographer now, but most of that just has to do with quality. And better photographer is as far as like doing cooler stuff. But I look back at my old weddings and there was still enough great photos to make a beautiful album. And those clients are just as happy as my current clients. So this is why I bring it up, and this is why I want to challenge, your normal mentality of potentially just giving out files because that's what clients want. Not all clients want the files. And that's a rant for another day, but I just want to give you the 4 different options of, shoot and burn, and that's bringing the whole industry down, plus you're never going to get anywhere. Then there's profitable digitals, which is a great first step, and I do know people that are very successful doing that. You get to shoot more, but you still get to keep enough money, and that you really just need to know your numbers even more than any other business model. And then above that, you do some sort of hybrid where the session comes with a couple digitals, or I guess technically my business model with portraits is kind of hybrid in that once they've ordered a large wall art, then I'll give them that file, right? So that's sort of like a way to kind of get in there in the middle of these different business models. And then the last business model is that boutique, full service, in-person sales. And the irony is, for me, is once I've done all this for my clients, they don't even know what to do with the files. I have weddings where they have never picked up the digital files that are there. I recently delivered some digital files to a client who was married 3 years ago, and they already have their album, and they just never got around to picking up their USB drive, so I met them out for beers, and the bride actually said, I don't even know what to do with these. I don't even know what other photos would be on here because I know the ones in the album so well. So when you work up to a full service boutique business model, your clients won't even know what to do with the files anymore anyway. So it's just food for thought, and that's my rundown of the 4 different types of business models and how you can figure out where in the mix you want to be for your business.